Today, Jeremy Corbyn kicked off his election campaign, and I have to say, I sat there glued to it, and next week we have to be totally impartial. Well, not totally impartial, but everybody has to have a crack of the whip. Unfortunately, Labour MPs seem very reticent to come to talk radio into this building. I find that quite strange. Rosie Duffield,
what's strange about it? Didn't he have a go at your boss today?
I think he did, yes. Yes, he's had a go at practically anybody who was successful as well.
We don't want that.
And a very successful man, Theo Paphitis, who's with me now, and I've known Theo quite a long time. And the interesting thing is, if you listen to a lot of socialists, they think anybody who's successful is either crooked, bent, doesn't pay their taxes, whatever. And I think that has to be blown out of the water as a myth. And there may be some people who are terrible, and there may be some people who do things like that, but not everybody who's successful.
There's some people pay taxes, some people don't pay taxes. I mean, there's working people that don't pay taxes, that work on the black economy. There is very rich people that spend their lives avoiding paying taxes. There is foreign companies that come here, destroy our retail environment and don't pay taxes. You know, at the end of the day, that's why you have governments. It's up to the government to pull their finger out and deal with things. Because what we have in the UK is a tax system that's absolutely broken. It was broken before the referendum, and now it's absolutely shattered because the government have been in paralysis. Technology in 4 years. Can you imagine how far technology has moved on in 4 years? And our taxation system goes back to the 1500s.
Why?
Because it's too difficult. They're short-term politicians. Sajid Javid, for instance, did a review of business rates in 2017. And you know what his conclusion was? It's too difficult to deal with. I'll leave it for someone else, and went off on holiday.
Have you had a go at him?
He's the Chancellor.
Have you had a go? You should have a go.
I don't know the fella. All I know is ineffective. Whatever ministry he's been in, whatever job he's had, he's been ineffective. The thought of having him as Chancellor of the Exchequer is quite... And I'm not a Labourite and I'm not a Toryite. In fact, I'm an orphan at the moment because I don't know who to vote for. But the thought of having him in charge is ridiculous.
Why don't politicians of whatever political side, well, it won't be Labour judging by Jeremy Corbyn's views today, but why don't they ask people like you? Now, just to sort of finish this off and so people understand where you're coming from. So you went on and you did some deals and you made quite a bit of money. And then in 1990, if I remember all the conversations I've had with you over the years, in 1990, you lost the lot.
I lost everything. We had to sell our house. Went home to Mrs. P and we had this beautiful house that we bought. And we thought we'd arrived, thought we'd made it. And I said to her, you know, we own this house jointly. And she said, yeah. I said, no, jointly with the bank. And she went, yeah. I said, well, they want their bit back. And do you know what? She carried on washing the dishes and said, fine, I'm sure we'll find something else. And that's exactly what we did. So we had to sell up and get a little cottage and take the kids there, and probably the most focused part of my life. It focused me totally about the future. But again, it was back to some bad economics that were going on at the time. But we don't seem to learn from short-term governments, and that's the problem. And no government wants to tackle taxation, not properly.
Do you pay your taxes properly?
100%. I pay my taxes in the United Kingdom.
You've never been tempted to go offshore?
Yes, many times.
And you never have?
No.
But what's the reason? Why don't you think that?
So I was classified as non-dom because I was born overseas. And as you know, about a few years back, there was a choice where you could either decide to leave the country or, in fact, pay your tax in the UK.
Yeah.
And lots of people left the country.
Well, yeah, Mrs. P could have moved to Monaco like Philip Green. His wife is in Monaco.
I wouldn't be able to pop in like now and have a cup of... that tea was lousy, as it happens.
Yeah.
And
make Theo a better cup of tea.
Was it out of a machine?
Yes.
It's a
machine one, yeah.
It was a machine.
I was talking about it,
It was a shocker.
Yeah.
And I'll have one too, thank you.
And have a cup of tea and have a chat. And at the end of the day, and you pay your taxes. And you pay your taxes in the United Kingdom.
How many people do you employ?
Last count, about 4,500. So I employ 4,500 people in retail. And retail now, we just had the new select committee report on business rates, for instance, which absolutely makes it clear what I've been saying now for the last 5 years, writing about it, that the tax system in the United Kingdom is totally and utterly knackered. I mean, since 1990, we were collecting 8.8 billion pounds in business rates. Last year, we collected 27.3 billion, 210% more. It is absolutely ridiculous.
And it's from smaller businesses, isn't it? Like the big companies, like, that have the big warehouses, they don't really pay.
And that's why you find so many shops closing. 5% of the economy, retail is 5% of the economy, but pays 25% of business rates. How does that work?
You don't have to tell me. You know, I have a little restaurant my family have had for the last 30 years in Harrogate. And I think the business rates are now more than the rent for the property. I mean...
But what's stopping them sorting it out? Is it because these Amazon, these big companies are powerful?
Well, there's something not right. There is definitely something not right.
I don't think they're intelligent enough. I don't think successive governments, whether Labour or Conservative, have people in positions where they're really not.
James, they are intelligent. They just can't be asked. Can I say that word? I'm sorry, I've said it now. They can't be bothered because it would be too... It means going and doing a shift. It means making a difference. And actually, when you can coast as a minister and a Secretary of State, why are you going to go upset the apple cart because Paphitis is moaning that retail is going down the pan? And the damage they've done for the last 5 years to retail, I promise you, cannot
but they're being lobbied,
repaired.
Aren't they, by the big corporate, the massive corporations?
Hang on, here's a question, though, right? Why don't you just sell up and go and enjoy what you've achieved over the years? Because you could, couldn't you?
You could, and it's a very, very, very tempting option. And at the moment, depending on what happens with this election, I promise you, a lot of people will be giving that serious, serious thought.
Now, just think on while you're saying that, because there'll be some of the 4,000 people who work for one of your companies worried. Because the interesting thing, and I've seen it myself, they love you. I don't know why, actually. I mean, but you actually go round and try and meet as many of your employees in all kinds of different businesses around the country.
I do what I do because I'm passionate about it and I love meeting people. I love working with people. And you're absolutely right. You know, I've stayed around and done what I've done and I enjoy what I do. I get as much kick out of it as they do. So it's important. It's my life. And that's why I still do it. But you will find a lot of people, irrespective of who gets in and who the next Prime Minister will be taking a long, hard look. Yeah. If we end up with lazy politicians getting in charge again and not dealing with the proper issues of taxation, which is out of date, then we're in trouble.
Jeremy Corbyn wants to redistribute wealth. He also wants to renationalise a lot of industries. Is this going to help or hinder employment for people?
Oh, of course it is. I mean, we're talking about economics and failed experiments of the past. Why would you bring back failed policies that have failed so many countries? This is not Venezuela. I mean, this is the United Kingdom, which annoys me when you get someone like Trump talking down to us and saying, you got great potential, you guys. Really? It's the United Kingdom.
He is annoying, isn't he?
And he's telling us, we've got great potential. Oh, my word. I feel very relieved.
Yeah. Would you ever, I don't know, I mean, you've got businesses in other parts of the world. Have you got any in America?
Not in the US, no. I've not ventured in the US. I'm quite happy. Never say never, as I say, but there's not been the opportunity that I found attractive.
What do you think it is that you do that other people, because you've bought quite a lot of businesses that weren't doing very well. Mind you, you've sold businesses doing well for lots of money and other people have bought them and they've gone completely the wrong way, haven't
much
they?
afterwards.
Yeah.
It's much afterwards.
Yeah.
I think in retail, you've got to do detail and you've got to be passionate and be on the job. You can't run a retail business from a spreadsheet. But I can honestly tell you, in all my years of retail, this is the worst time ever. And come January, we will see so many casualties, more than we've ever seen before. Forget the names that we've already seen disappear from the high street, just in the British Home Stores, Maplins and everybody else.
It's snowballing, isn't it?
It's getting snowballing. Some other it is that difficult. And the government won't lift a single finger to put right the problems they have caused.
If you were the Chancellor, what would you do? What would be the first thing that you would do?
Well, I would. I've got a whole raft of things that I would do. First of all, I wouldn't blow 80 billion quid on High Speed 2. When
we were looking forward to that, weren't we?
Yeah, it takes 10 minutes off the time to
and he
get to
could go
Birmingham.
home to Birmingham.
Yeah.
So imagine what you could do with 80 billion quid, for goodness sake. If we just stuck broadband, for instance, everywhere and said to telecommunications companies, you can only have your license if you put high-speed broadband in every nook and cranny of the United Kingdom, so people can work where they like and work remotely where they like in the wonderful parts of the country.
Is the High Street dead?
The High Street, I've never said this before publicly, but I know because I've always said there's a future, and there is a future for the High Street. But I, for the first time ever, I'm worried. Certainly for shopping centres where the footfall has gone through the floor, rates have gone up by 210%, and where you're just having a situation where you are going to kill the whole community, the fabric of our lives. And I'm putting it firmly, and I'm happy to debate this with any politician from either party. If you're listening, happy to do a public debate on the facts, no fake news, just real facts, and anything you say will be fact-checked. So you can't just say what you... I mean, at the moment, they think if they say something enough times...
You'll believe it.
You believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolute nonsense. So I think this is going to be one of the nastiest elections in living history.
Well, I hope everybody bears in mind, and won't be able to say this next week either, but I hope everybody bears in mind that if you're bored with politics, then really you're bored with life, because politics isn't apart from life. It is a necessity. And it's a necessity that whichever way it goes, that actually we have somebody who can actually run the country after the election. If there's another hung parliament, we will be in all kinds of trouble. But you're right. I live in a very remote place now, and there is a high street. And the problem with the high street is there's a big car park to the high street where I live, but there's also a rather horrible little man who comes around sticking tickets on your car. And if I want to go in for 5 minutes and go to the little grocery shop and get some stuff and come up and find I've got a 50 or 60 pound fine on the car, I'm going to go to the shopping mall where
That's
it's
the
free.
local authorities.
They're building a lot of block of flats, aren't they, now, in high streets, in sort of...
Well, it's become retirement homes.
There's a lot of that, yeah.
All retirement homes now. So there's been a lot of damage being done, and my concern is that the damage is now irreparable. And in fact, I don't think this election is going to give us the answer, because we'll end up with another hung parliament, and we're going to have to go through this drudgery all over again. It doesn't seem to be about what's right for the country at the moment. It just seems to be what's right about political parties.
Do you want to take a couple of calls or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
There's some calls who want to talk. If you want to talk to Theo, call us 03444991000. We'll squeeze them in. So you've done, this is the second time round you've done this and been successful. And judging by what Jeremy Corbyn has said today, if he does become the next Prime Minister, he is going to look at people who are successful like you, who are earning more. Was it today that he thought he didn't think anybody should be a billionaire? There aren't that many billionaires anyway.
Well, there is, but you can't
I mean,
just
you're
say
the only one I
what
know.
What do you do? I mean, do you want to stifle? Just say, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, how hard you work, you can only earn the same as the next bloke down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's absolute nonsense.
But, you know, if I'm not a businessman, but if I was a businessman and worked out a way of doing all sorts of things and was able to employ other people, surely that's the benefit of others, not just me.
And they pay tax, and that fuels the economy. Otherwise, they just go and do it elsewhere in a different country.